Welcome to Beyond Investments with your host, Seth Leishman of Ostro Financial Consultants. Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but its accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. Neither LPL Financial nor the hosts of this show or accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Ostro Financial Consultants, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. Today's guest, Rick Fisher, is a financial advisor with Ostro Financial Consultants, National Planning member SIPC. And now, Beyond Investments, here's your host, Seth Leishman.
Good morning. Welcome to Beyond Investments here on News Talk KNCO, AM 830. Rick
Good
Fisher.
morning, sir.
How are you doing? I'm doing good, thank you.
I'm doing okay. Actually, I'm pretty excited. I've got my baby girl had her what we call Jesus birthday yesterday.
Okay.
She turned 33.
Yes.
And then I have my son Noah from Colorado with his wife and 2 kids coming out tomorrow. So I'll be spending. I don't know if you looked at the calendar.
I did not.
But I am not scheduled to be here the rest of the week.
Oh, very good.
But depending on their plans,
yes.
Then it's 10 minutes away. If I need to come in and do something, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So
I'm out too, so I won't see you.
Well, but tomorrow you're here.
No.
Okay.
I will be gone till next Monday. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be gone until next Tuesday. So. Do you think they'll survive without us?
I think it'll be fine.
They probably run just fine.
Probably smoother.
Yeah, Nathan's got it covered. He just goes in his office, closes the door, and hope everything goes okay.
Got it covered. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Janet will keep everybody in line.
Yes.
Actually, Patty will.
Patty will run. Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The true boss.
We just have great staff.
Yeah,
just
we do.
Great staff.
We do.
Well, how's it going? What do you got for us today?
Oh, so you forgot what we're going to talk about today.
No, I know what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Reaganomics versus Bidenomics.
Yes.
And we're going to have a fun discussion.
Yes.
That's actually
and we
going to
can
be
talk about
one.
other things that have happened
excited.
in the news with our current administration.
Yes, there's a lot.
Yes, there is.
Plenty to talk about if we really wanted to.
And also, this is not Friday, but this is Tuesday. It is the MLB trade deadline.
Yes.
So if we run out of gas, we can bring up baseball stuff.
We could bring up baseball stuff, yes. Yeah, Giants picked up a couple guys, so we'll see how it goes.
Anyways, we'll start with trivia.
Yes, let's start with trivia.
And then we'll start with financial trivia because this is a financial show.
Very good.
So 1981, this is the year you're born, right?
1982.
Okay, so this is before.
Year before.
At 1 minute past midnight, a new cable TV channel began broadcasting. It shows nonstop diet of music videos specializing in fast editing cuts, murky lighting, and miniature melodramas. The channel is called MTV, and it gives a huge jolt of youth potion to the faltering record music business around the world.
Very good.
I was in college when it first came out. I remember seeing it and thinking, this is kind of cool. And they got more sophisticated as time went on.
Of course.
Moving on to 1970, or moving back to 1973, the International Business Machine Corporation is fined $150,000 a day by federal district court judge David N. Endelstein for contempt of court. IBM, which is being sued by the U.S. Department of Justice for violating federal antitrust law, refuses to turn over sensitive documents requested by the government, claiming that they would give its competitors unjustified access to IBM's business secrets. Judge Edelstein deliberately sets the fine at $150,000, an estimated 5% of IBM's daily profits.
Wow.
So it sounds like he was friendly to IBM.
Yes.
Even though I would think $150,000 a day is a lot of money.
Yes.
Even today.
No kidding.
Moving over to sports.
Yes.
So, right now there's the big thing about, Judge broke the American League home run record last year.
Yep.
Ohtani's on pace with Judge, and Judge was on pace for his own number.
That's right.
So here's back in 1928. So I don't know if you probably don't remember this, but 1927 is when Babe Ruth set the then mark at 60.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So this is 1928. Babe Ruth hits his 42nd home run as the Yankees beat the St. Louis Browns 12-1. Takes him 4 weeks ahead of his 1927 pace.
Oh, there you go.
So apparently, obviously, he got injured at the end of the year, but it's
Right.
Whatever Judge and Ohtani are doing, Babe did it on his own record, and he almost broke it again. But,
I know,
but injuries. So
that's impressive.
A few years later, 1933, New York future Hall of Famer pitcher Carl Hubble sets a Major League Baseball record for consecutive scoreless innings. What do you think that, again, it's the current one is Oral Hershiser owns that record now.
Right.
But back in 1933, what do you think the scoreless innings streak was?
30?
45.
45. Wow. I mean, that's impressive.
I mean, Oral Hershiser, it's 50-something.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's huge.
It is.
Holy cow.
1945, New York Giants outfielder Mel Ott hits his historic 500th Major League home run off Braves' Johnny Hutchins, joining Babe Ruth and Jimmy Foxx as the only players to reach that milestone. I was going to go on the list to see how many members there are now. I think it's like 10 or 12. There's quite a few. And there was only 3 at that time.
Yeah.
1963, Arthur Ashe becomes the first African-American tennis player to be named in the U.S. Davis Cup team.
Very nice.
1971, Richard Petty wins the Dixie 500 in Atlanta, Georgia, to become the first NASCAR driver to win $1 million in career earnings. Not annual earnings,
right.
Not event earnings,
no.
Career.
And
by 71, he'd probably been racing for at least 10 years.
Yeah, easily.
Moving over to music, 1980, Def Leppard makes a U.S. live debut when they appeared at the New York City concert opening for AC/DC. 1971, I remember this, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour. So Sonny and Cher were a musical group, you know that?
Of course.
Yeah, they're a duet, okay. But they had a comedy hour that started in 1971.
Oh.
Started on primetime American TV.
Whew.
By this time, Sonny and Cher had stopped producing hit singles, so the duo decided to sing and tell jokes in nightclubs across the country. CBS head of programming, Fred Silverman, saw them one evening and offered them their own show, which was very, very successful, and I enjoyed it. It was a staple when I was a kid.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I would have been 9.
Okay.
It was prime time, so it was clean enough for me to watch.
Right.
1964, the Beatles scored their 5th U.S. #1 single in 7 months.
Goodness.
When A Hard Day's Night went to the top of the charts. The group has now spent 17 weeks at the #1 position in this year.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why they're the greatest ever, in my opinion.
Oh.
I've only found a little bit of automotive.
Okay.
And this is out of July 29th, so it was a couple days ago. General Motors bought Cadillac at this date in 1909.
Oh, interesting.
Also on this date, 1914, Germany and France declare war on each other to start World War I. We already talked about MTV. 1492, Columbus set sail. So that's when he started off. And that is it for trivia today.
Very good. Appreciate that. We're gonna have a fun rest of the show. It'll be interesting. I think
just remember filter.
Yes.
The filter.
We'll have a good time. We'll have a good time with it, of course. And
I know I know it's kind of a dangerous subject to pick up, but
it'll be a fun.
I think we can behave ourselves.
I think we can
and be fair. And
absolutely. You're listening to. We're going to be right back. You're listening to Beyond Investments here on News Talk AM 830.
Today's guest, Rick Fisher, is a financial advisor with Ostro Financial Consultants, National Planning Member SIPC.
Welcome back to Beyond Investments here on News Talk KNCO. Rick, let's talk about Reaganomics and Bidenomics.
Exactly. So for those of you who are not old enough to remember, you've heard the term Reaganomics, but you probably know a lot about it just because I know who you are.
Right.
But a lot of the younger audience have maybe heard the term, but don't really know what it means.
Don't really know 100% what it means. Yes.
Basically, it was when Ronald Reagan came into office in 1980. That was my first election. I actually saw Ronald Reagan at a stump speech in San Diego, along with Desi Arnaz in a parking lot at a mall.
Yeah.
I knew who he was.
Right.
Didn't know much about his politics, and I was kind of, when you're 18, you're kind of trying to feel it out. You're kind of doing what your parents do, but you're figured it out. I thought I was pretty conservative at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when he came into office, we were in a very similar situation where when Biden came in office, the economy wasn't doing well, inflation was high, unemployment was high, and so that was the biggest challenge that he had to really tackle.
Yeah.
And they called it Reaganomics because what they proposed to get the economy going was to reduce taxes.
Yes.
Reduce government spending.
Correct.
reduce regulations.
Yep.
Okay, and let what we would call the free market do it. Some people would say it'd be laissez-faire capitalism.
Right. There's a little bit of that, definitely.
Okay, and
a couple other things though.
Okay.
I got to bring up because it's been a shame that we haven't had this in our federal government for a really long time, and that is a balanced federal budget.
Agreed.
And with inflation, tightening the money supply.
Right.
We'll talk about what we're doing right now, but anyways.
So the theory was what they called trickle down.
Correct.
They said if you gave tax cuts primarily to the upper income earners, because at the time, people forget, but in the late 70s, early 80s, the tax code was very different.
It was very different.
It was you had very high tax rates, because I think the top rate was 70%.
70.
People,
yes. 70%.
On the flip side, there were tons and tons of deductions and loopholes that you could get it down to probably more what it is today.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You just needed you needed a good CPA, a good accounting firm.
Yep.
You could write off almost everything. I remember auto loan interest you could write off.
Right.
Credit card interest you could write off.
Yep.
So when they changed that, then the top bracket was 28%.
Yes.
But they took away all those deductions.
All those deductions. Oh,
so
yeah.
Some people liked it, some people didn't.
Of course.
But the economy did slowly turn around. It got worse first, and then it started turning around.
Yeah, it really turned around.
With more money in the economy and government out of the way.
Yep.
It led to, or was partially responsible, one of the longest economic expansions and bull markets of all time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I think in this current administration, they're trying to play on the Reaganomics, because that was the stump speech. Reaganomics.
Yes.
He did this in his first term. Second term, it was a landslide.
Right.
And if you can say anything bad about the Reagan administration, most of that happened in his second term.
Right.
He may have already been suffering from some Alzheimer's, and
I've read a lot of studies about that, and that's been a liberal mentality that he actually had that during his presidency, but it's been proven over and over again that he didn't. So I don't buy that 100%.
I don't know if it's been proven, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, he got in some trouble, and some things that I was a big proponent of his first term. His second term, I go, you probably shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Anyways, but no president's perfect.
No president's perfect.
So let's speed up to a couple years ago.
Yes.
The economy was rolling along, but there were some issues, and then we had 2020,
and then we had
which no one can see, and that could be a whole nother show.
We can talk about the economic impact of a pandemic. Yes.
And the current administration comes in, and the first thing they do is they attack the energy industry and shut down a bunch of pipelines.
Correct.
Start increasing regulations.
Yes.
We have a good tax law in effect. They haven't messed with it yet, but they haven't made it permanent either.
Correct. I would agree with that.
But the floodgates of federal spending to fund everything.
Opened up.
Overfund everything. Give money to everybody.
Yes.
But with lots of government control.
Correct.
And to try to say they're trying to do the same thing that Reaganomics did. And again, trickle down wasn't 100% successful.
Right, of course. Agreed.
But, you can't argue what did happen.
Right.
You can just argue that, it would be so much more.
Exactly. You look at the long-term impact of some of those things, and like you said, started one of the longest, strongest bull markets and economic growth expansions in our country in a long, long time.
So the trickle down was the theory that if you gave these cuts, that the money would go to the wealthiest and they would trickle down in the economy. So the wealthy would spend more money. That means the middle class would have more money and they could spend more money.
Yes.
And it's not a perfect system, but
it's not a perfect system, especially if you're the key is with a lot of that is when you're starting from especially from a tax cut standpoint. When you think about a tax cut standpoint, if you're starting at a point at where the middle class or even lower middle class and below don't pay any taxes anyways, you can't cut it any further.
Right,
they're already paying zero, right?
Or they're even getting credits.
Or
you're
even getting credits.
Giving money.
Yeah, you're actually transferring tax dollars from one household to another household via the federal government, right? So, this whole idea that, trickle down, that as if it's only going to benefit the wealthy. Well, when they're the only ones paying the tax, where do you think the tax cuts come from?
Right.
If you cut the taxes at all when some people aren't paying any, that's who it has to impact. So I understand that component of it, and I love that. One of the things I love most is that only now that we are slowly seeing an improvement in inflation, coming down a bit, and a couple other places within the economy are looking a little better. Has Biden's administration finally embraced that phrase, Bidenomics?
Right, but it's almost the opposite. Because one more thing about Reaganomics is that we had record high interest rates. Inflation was super high.
Yes,
and Volcker had to raise interest rates a ton to get everything. And again, that was very painful.
Yeah.
So we're not as an extreme as it was then.
No,
but he's trying to coin the phrase because it was positive, even though what he wants to do is just pretty much the opposite.
Pretty much the opposite. I mean, you look at what Reagan did. And said, look, we need to get people's money back in their own hands. Let's get it back into their own hands in the form of tax cuts. Let's get government to stop spending so much money because it causes inflation. There's never been ever in the history of certainly our country, where government spending, especially government spending that comes from borrowed dollars,
right,
or printed dollars, has not created inflation. It's never happened. Never. Not once have we ever not had inflation. I'm sorry, this is a double negative, but government spending causes inflation. It's 100% successful at that. Government spending is fantastic at that. And yet here we are with Bidenomics. We're doing the opposite of what Reagan did, and we're dumping more and more money. We're not tightening the money supply. We're expanding the money supply tenfold. It's just ridiculous at a ridiculous pace. Under the idea that we're going to lower inflation, even though it's never happened before. We've never successfully lowered inflation by spending government dollars, really taxpayer dollars.
And we have seen some moderation of the current inflation, but it's probably not going to get down to where the Fed wants it.
Yeah, and really realistically has very little to nothing to do with government spending to see inflation come down.
Right.
It has everything to do with energy costs coming down, which Biden has only managed to ruin and cause to go up, right? Like we talked about when you first started, was one of the first things Biden did was shut down the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah, which
made us energy in. We went from fully independent exporter of energy to now we're bringing in hundreds, millions and millions of barrels of oil every day from other countries who are not friendly to us.
Right.
So I don't. It's just an interesting dynamic that we're living in when you've got a presidential administration attempting to have a similar target. Let's reduce inflation. Let's grow the economy. And you've got a history of one president doing it, and it worked. And then you have a new presidential administration saying, well, we're going to do the exact opposite, but have the same goal.
Right. Because we're going to invest in clean energy.
Yes.
We're going to, get rid of dirty energy.
Yes. We're going to lower inflation by jacking up the minimum wage, which, have you been to McDonald's recently?
No, I have not.
Try to get a burger and fry for under $13 from a fast food place.
I remember when you could do
ridiculous.
It for under $5.
Yeah. No, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And as much as I love Chick-fil-A, took the kids to Chick-fil-A, it's like $80 to get some chicken strips at Chick-fil-A now for 4 kids.
Yikes.
It's ridiculous. It's insane where that cost of gone. Why is that? Well, because they got to pay $20 an hour now. And most of that's pushed by government mandate, that they're forced to start paying a lot of these wages like this. Now, some of it is, there is some supply demand with wages. Again, a lot of it's driven by, if I don't work, I can get all these handouts. Similar to England. Problem that England's been trying to deal with, people on the dole, as they always called it, right? England's called it the dole. And we kind of adopted that philosophy a little bit and that terminology. But, when you've got, a huge part of your population on the dole, your labor rates are all going to be jacked up.
And another thing they're seeing in Europe as well as here is that it used to be, when it came to capitalism and the acceptance or liking capitalism, understanding capitalism, it was usually the conservatives that were always touting it.
Right.
And most of the liberals were saying we need more of a socialist, more government control. Now we're starting to see it's a little more divided. There's some people who call themselves Republicans who think, well, capitalism is not all it's cracked up to be. And as we've said before, the problem with capitalism is capitalist. The problem with socialism is socialism.
Yes.
Meaning that if the capitalists, again, there's, we don't have as much, the faith of this country seems to be waning. And so if you don't have good ethical, moral standards, it doesn't matter what system you're going to use. You're going to be either selfish or where that's where the capitalists do things in a fair-minded way and look at how the system is supposed to work. Doesn't mean that you raise prices as high as you can and lowers.
That's right.
There's people involved.
Yeah.
And you have to take that in consideration.
Absolutely. And when they do, it's a system that works pretty darn well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
For all.
And I don't think Bidenomics, it's the way they played off the word. They first they ridiculed and vilified Reagan and Reaganomics, and now they're trying to saying, well, Bidenomics is going to do the same thing, which I really don't think it will.
Yes.
We will see what happens.
Absolutely.
But I think the president now has bigger fish to fry. And I'm sure that Bidenomics or the things he got passed were his idea. I'm sure they were someone else's idea, and he's just touting it.
Well, absolutely, of course. I mean, it is almost comical at this point to see some of the things that they promote as if it's going to be something that actually going to grow an economy, right? Talk about division of people. Look at the student loan forgiveness issue that they tried to get passed, right?
Are they still trying? I saw something on the news today about
I think they are still trying
plan or something.
Oh yeah, I think they are still trying that one. And you go, what do you talk about dividing of people? I mean, you've got people who, huge parts of our population, millions of people who work their butt off, work the tail off, end up with little to no debt and or have debt and pay it off because they go out into the job market after graduating from college or from technical school or whatever they went to, where they've got student loans, and then they work their tail off and pay it off. And you've got a whole swath of the population who just do whatever they want, and now taxpayers, we're going to be on the hook to forgive all of this debt for the lazy ones. I understand why people are divided about that.
Right. Absolutely.
And yet Biden wants to tout up all of his economic policies or this unification. It's all about unification and equality, and doesn't feel very unifying, and it certainly doesn't feel very equitable. That's for sure.
But as I was saying, in the last couple of days, some interesting things have happened. So we've got the testimony of one of the Biden associates.
Oh yeah.
They say it's damning. Only time will tell. This has only happened. And again, I am cynical enough to know that I think this is true, but you know what? Things haven't happened that I thought were true. And so, we'll wait and see. But on the flip side, now it looks like they're doubling down on trying to get Trump indicted and go to jail. Of course,
yes.
And so the next few days should be very interesting in how this stuff plays out. I mean, if there's smoke, there's fire. If there's something there's something there. But something has to happen. They can't just keep on talking about it and then come up with a new thing to distract us. And
yes, agreed. Right. I mean, they want to throw as many distractions at the American people as possible, so you don't pay attention to it. You don't think about it. Don't talk about it.
And I think with the continued gaffes and president, we can show the lies.
Oh yeah, I mean those are easy to find.
I don't see how he's going to survive. I think even the Democrats are saying we got to find someone else, and I don't know if he's going to survive in the next few months as far as being the candidate.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You look at a situation where you've got the amount of national debt that you're putting onto the American people under the guise of, we're just doing what's best for the economy. But I was just telling my kids, and I think I told you this earlier, I was telling my kids in the car just the other day, hey, guess what? Your government is spending your kids' money right now. We're at least that generation, maybe even further. Could be my daughter's grandkids and my great grandkids, right? Could be my great grandkids' money we're spending at this point. Under this idea that, we need to boost the economy, and we need to, have income equality and all of these things that they want to push on. Forgive debt.
If you want to give me 2 or 3 of Kershaw's millions to me,
right? Why not?
No,
No, never. We're not that kind.
It would be tempting, though.
Of course it would be. Yeah. It's just very interesting. We're still at an inflation level that's not something that's comfortable. 5%, even 4%. Is still a level, because it's not like it's negative. It's just we're slowing down the amount of growth. The 12% we saw inflation last year is still here. Those prices haven't come down.
Exactly.
They haven't gone backwards.
Right.
We're just we went up 12 and now we're only up 4 more from the 12.
Right.
And people forget about that.
Yes. And then, again, the market has recovered a little bit from the bear market.
Yep.
Hopefully at some point we'll hit new highs. And generally, if you are invested in the markets, you're going to do better than inflation. And that's kind of the goal.
Yes.
But it's hard to do when inflation's double digit. When inflation's 4 or 5%, it's doable.
It is. It is. The last thing I think maybe we can chat about here as we get close to our ending here is a balanced budget. The idea of a balanced budget
and term limits.
And talk about term limits. We can do another show about term limits. Goodness gracious. Having an actual balanced budget. How about
is it possible
our Congress
at this point?
It's.
I
wouldn't see
everything
why
would
not.
everything would have to be on the table.
Yes, you'd have to have everything on the table,
and it would have to be a mix of budget cuts.
Yep,
and also less spending.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be, and you got to be.
Increased revenue. You'd have to increase revenue.
Yeah,
through. You would have to raise some sort of taxes.
Yeah,
I don't see how you could do it without doing it.
Yeah, you got to increase the tax revenue coming in, and then there's always the argument of how do you increase tax revenue, right? By increasing the rate, does it actually increase the amount of?
Well, I think that we did a study.
Oftentimes, it
decades
doesn't.
They basically there's what I call right sizing taxes. That there's an efficient frontier.
Yes.
That if you get to a certain point, they'll pay the tax. You go beyond that certain point, they're going to put their efforts in avoiding that tax. So find out whatever that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what percentage that is. My guess it's probably less than 30%.
Yeah. Otherwise, you just say forget it.
And then I think you can probably build in some sort of incentive for those who have, the 1%ers to donate whatever they normally donate, but maybe have targeted causes where,
right.
Obviously, some of the billionaires that we know of, we probably don't agree with the charities they put their money into, and they should have that right. But there could be some incentives. But there are, do I want to have more U.S. manufacturing? Yes. Do I want all our chips and stuff made abroad? No,
not really.
I have enough made here that we can be a self-sufficient nation if needed be. If the whole world went to war and everyone was against us, that we'd have enough food, we have enough, all that stuff.
That's right.
That's the part I would like to get to. And would I pay a little bit more taxes if it was necessary, if I saw the cuts?
Right.
And I just think that when it comes to the social spending, somehow we got to get the American people to do it.
Yeah.
And not the government. It's much more efficient.
Way
you and I
more
give
efficient.
to the charities you and I give to.
Yes.
There's tons of them out there. But as we know, a lot of people who probably have the wherewithal to give, for whatever reason, don't do it.
That's right. Absolutely.
And that it really comes in, how do we treat our fellow man? And
it comes down to all that ethics stuff.
Because I do think that those who do have a moral obligation to help those who do not. It's just, how do you do it?
Correct. Yeah. You want it to hit the real people.
Right.
Well, as always, we thank you for listening in today to Beyond Investments. We are always available, and we do appreciate any feedback. And you can give us a call at 273-4425 and come experience the difference when you think Beyond Investments.
Bye, folks.
Information provided is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but its accuracy and completeness are not guaranteed. Neither LPL Financial nor the hosts of this show or accept any liability for the use of the information discussed. Consult with a qualified financial, legal, or tax professional prior to taking any action. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Ostro Financial Consultants, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.